All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to dive into something that's been causing a lot of anxiety for folks.
Yeah.
How to avoid deportation.
Big one.
Huge. Especially with all the talk about a potential second Trump presidency, stricter immigration policies, all that. So we're focusing on this YouTube video that's making the rounds. It's outlining strategies for immigrants.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's relevant to anyone who's, even a little bit concerned about their immigration status.
It is. It is.
And because this is, let's face it, a pretty heavy topic,
It can be.
I brought in an expert to help us break it all down.
Happy to be here. Immigration law is my bread and butter, so to speak.
So maybe let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat.
Okay.
This video is specifically talking about, what if Trump gets elected again? What are people so worried about?
Yeah, I think that's the core anxiety, right?
Yeah.
The video is highlighting this possibility of, a return to those stricter immigration policies, a lot more enforcement,
Right.
potentially leading to way more deportations. And it's interesting. The video is, while it is focusing on the concerns of undocumented individuals,
Right.
it also mentions, even green card holders, even naturalized citizens, they could face more scrutiny.
So basically, nobody's really safe.
Nobody can be complacent.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the main message of the video, and this is important, it's not just about scaring people.
Right.
It's about empowerment.
Okay.
It really stresses that everybody,
Yes.
regardless of their status, has legal rights if they're facing deportation, or, the formal term is removal proceedings.
That's a good point, because it's easy to feel so powerless in these situations.
Oh, absolutely.
But just knowing your rights is huge. It's like the first step.
Huge, exactly.
Okay, so the video goes into a bunch of potential defenses and relief options.
It does.
But it all starts with...
understanding the notice to appear,
okay.
the NTA, the document that says, hey,
To what?
the NTA notice to appear.
Got it, yeah.
It's the government saying, hey, we're trying to deport you.
So it's like the first shot across the bow.
It is, and it'll outline the charges against you, the reasons why they think you should be deported.
Okay.
And here's where it gets interesting. Even small errors in that NTA,
Really?
missing information, improper service, can be grounds for dismissal.
So it's not just a slam dunk.
Not at all.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to have a good immigration attorney.
Right.
They can really scrutinize that document, see if there are any errors that could get the whole case dismissed.
Okay, so even before we get to the defenses, there's this whole procedural aspect.
Exactly.
That's so interesting. Okay, but let's say, there aren't any errors in the NTA.
Right.
What are some of these other options, these relief options?
Right. The video talks about adjustment of status.
Okay, what's that?
Basically, applying for a green card while you're already here in the U.S., but there are requirements.
Okay.
You have to have an approved immigrant petition, somebody sponsored you.
Right.
It's not just a free-for-all.
So there are oops.
Hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
Now, there's also, the video mentions, readjustment of status.
Readjustment, what's that?
It's like a do-over.
Okay.
Say there were problems with your original green card application.
Oh, okay.
Or you've had some, minor legal troubles since then.
Got it.
Readjustment lets you try and fix those problems, get back on track.
Okay, so even if you've made mistakes,
Yeah,
there might still be a way.
there could be.
Okay, that's good to know.
Now, asylum.
Yeah, the video talks a lot about asylum.
It does. It's a major avenue,
Yeah.
especially for folks who fear persecution back home.
Right.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
You have to apply within 1 year of arriving in the U.S.
1 year. That seems really strict.
It is. And the video really stresses the importance of meeting that deadline. There are some exceptions. If you can prove there were extraordinary circumstances
Okay.
that prevented you from filing on time.
So you got to have a good reason.
Absolutely. This is where an experienced immigration attorney is essential
Yeah, for sure.
to make sure you're doing everything right.
Okay.
But even if you miss that asylum deadline,
Okay.
there might be other options, like withholding of removal
Okay.
or protection under the Convention Against Torture.
Wow.
They're more limited, but they can be lifesavers
Right.
for people who would face real danger if they went back.
Okay, so there are different options
Yeah.
depending on your situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another one is cancellation of removal.
Cancellation. Okay.
This is for people who aren't permanent residents,
Right.
but have been living in the U.S. for at least 10 years.
10 years, wow.
They have to show good moral character and prove that deportation would cause extreme hardship for their family,
Okay.
especially family members who are U.S. citizens or green card holders.
10 years is a long time.
It is.
That shows you've really built a life here.
Right, exactly. It's about recognizing the contributions that people have made and the impact that deportation would have on families.
So it's not just about, like, following the letter of the law.
No, it's about recognizing the human element,
Right.
the impact on families and communities.
Okay, so you're saying if cancellation of removal seems like a possibility,
Yeah.
you need to be thinking about this now.
Start building your case now.
How do you do that?
Keep records.
Of what?
Everything.
Yeah.
Employment, community involvement, any awards, letters of support, anything that shows you're in good standing,
Got it.
and the potential hardship your deportation would cause.
So it's all about documentation.
Absolutely. Be proactive. Create that paper trail.
Okay, I feel like this is already a lot to process.
Oh, for sure.
I'm guessing there's more, right?
There is. The video covers temporary protected status, special immigrant juvenile status,
Yeah.
a couple others.
Okay, let's take a breath. We've covered so much already.
We have.
Let's come back to those in the next part.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking a moment to digest is never a bad idea with this stuff.
You're telling me, okay, so before, we took a little pause there. We were going through these, different ways to try to avoid deportation. And you mentioned there were a couple more.
Yeah, there are a few more.
You brought up something called temporary protected status, TPS.
Right, PPS.
What's that all about?
Okay, so TPS it's a form of relief that's granted to nationals of certain countries.
Okay.
It's not for everyone, it's very specific.
Got it.
It's if your home country is experiencing something that makes it unsafe to return.
Okay, like what?
Ongoing armed conflict, natural disasters, those kinds of extreme situations.
So it's like a temporary safe haven.
Yeah, exactly. Temporary safe haven.
Well, people from these specific countries.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you qualify for TPS, you're protected from deportation. You can legally work in the U.S. Important to note, though, TPS is temporary. It's not a pathway to a green card or anything.
Got it.
But it can be a real lifeline.
Right, if you can't go back home.
Yeah, if it's just not safe.
Okay, and then you also mentioned something called special immigrant juvenile status.
CJS.
CJS.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's for, like, younger people.
It's specifically for kids under 21
Okay.
who've been abused, neglected, or abandoned by a parent or both parents.
Oh, wow.
And a court has to be involved. They have to determine that it's not in the child's best interest to return to their home country.
So there has to be, like, a legal finding?
Yes, a court order.
Okay.
And if a child meets those requirements, then CJS can lead to a green card, to legal permanent residency.
Wow, okay, so that's a big deal.
Huge. It's a safety net for kids in really tough situations.
Absolutely.
Recognizing that they are super vulnerable.
Yeah, they need extra protection.
For sure. Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about a couple of options that aren't like permanent solutions, but they can give you some breathing room.
Okay, I'm all about buying some time.
Exactly. Explore every avenue.
Yeah.
So the first one is called prosecutorial discretion.
Prosecutorial discretion.
It basically means immigration officials, they get to choose which cases they prioritize.
Okay.
So sometimes they might decide to pause or even terminate removal proceedings.
Really?
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we've got bigger fish to fry.
Right, okay.
Often comes down to resources,
Yeah.
They can't go after everyone.
Although if you're not like a high priority case.
Yeah, if you got strong ties to the community, a clean record,
Right.
deportation wouldn't be in the public interest, that kind of thing.
So you might be eligible for this prosecutorial discretion.
You might. It's not a guarantee, but it's a possibility.
Okay, something to keep in mind.
And then similar to that, there's administrative closure.
Administrative closure.
It's basically putting your case on hold.
So you're not deported, but you're not like in the clear either.
Exactly. It's like hitting the pause button. The case is technically closed, but they can reopen it later.
Got it.
So it buys you some time.
To maybe get your status adjusted or something?
Exactly. Gather more evidence, explore other options.
Okay, so again, not a permanent solution,
Right.
but a potential strategic move.
Exactly. A way to buy some time.
Okay.
And then finally, we have a couple of options that fall under humanitarian relief.
Humanitarian relief, okay.
It's like we've got all these different categories
Yeah.
with their own specific options.
It's a lot.
It is, but don't worry, we're breaking it down.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, so under humanitarian relief,
Mm-hmm.
we've got the U visa and the T visa.
Wait a minute, those sound familiar.
Yeah,
Aren't those for victims of crimes?
you got it.
Okay.
The U visa is specifically for victims of certain crimes who have suffered substantial harm,
Right.
and they have to have cooperated with law enforcement.
Oh, okay, so they helped with the investigation.
Exactly, or the prosecution of the crime.
So it's like in exchange for their help.
Yeah, they get some protection.
Got it.
And then the T visa is for victims of human trafficking.
That's a whole other...
Heavy topic.
Yeah, really heavy.
It's more common than you think, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But the T visa, it's there to provide a safe haven for survivors.
Right.
Allow them to stay in the U.S., rebuild their lives.
Okay, so we've gone through this whole range of options.
They have.
I'm starting to see why the video really emphasizes getting a good immigration lawyer.
It's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
This stuff is so complex.
It's like way more complicated than I even realized.
It really is, and the cases can hinge on tiny details.
Wow.
So you want an expert in your corner.
Right, to guide you through the process.
Exactly. File the right paperwork, fight for you in court.
It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
But even with a lawyer, it sounds like being proactive is key.
100%. Don't wait till it's a crisis.
Right.
If any of these options sound like they might apply to you,
Yeah.
start gathering evidence now.
Like what kind of evidence?
Keep meticulous records. Everything.
Give us some examples.
Interactions with law enforcement, medical records, employment history, community involvement,
So basically, anything and everything.
anything that can support your case.
Right, because you never know what might be relevant.
Exactly. More evidence, stronger case.
Got it.
And remember, talk to a lawyer early on.
Yeah.
They can assess your situation, give you the best advice.
Help you avoid making any mistakes.
Exactly. Mistakes can be costly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
3 most important takeaways.
Okay, number 1, understand your rights. Everyone facing deportation has them.
Okay.
Number 2, explore your options. There are a lot out there.
Right.
Figure out which ones you might qualify for.
And number 3,
Be proactive.
don't wait.
Don't wait. Get that evidence. Talk to a lawyer.
Okay, solid advice.
I hope so.
It's been super informative, but I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
It's also a little overwhelming.
It can be for sure.
So many moving parts,
Lots of them.
potential pitfalls.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to have good guidance.
Yeah, for sure. What gives you hope, though, when you're dealing with these cases?
Honestly, it's the people. Seeing how resilient they are, even when things are tough.
That's amazing.
It really is. They just find a way.
Yeah,
And knowing that I can help them even a little bit, it's really rewarding.
that's a great perspective.
Thanks.
It's a reminder that it's not just about the law.
Right.
It's about people's lives.
Absolutely. Their hopes, their dreams, their families.
Exactly.
We can't forget that.
Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of our deep dive here.
Okay.
What's next on the agenda?
You know, I think we need to take a step back
Okay.
from all the legal stuff
Okay.
and talk about the bigger picture.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bigger picture. We've been, really getting into the weeds
We.
of deportation, how to avoid it, all those legal strategies. But you're right, there's like this whole other level here
There it is.
that we need to talk about.
Right. The video, it's framed around this, potential policy shift.
Right.
But it really gets at something bigger,
Okay.
how we as a society
Right.
approach immigration.
Yeah, because it feels like it's always being used as a political football.
It is, constantly.
It's easy to get caught up in all that.
Yeah, the rhetoric, the back and forth.
And lose sight of the actual people involved.
Exactly, the human impact.
Yeah, and I think this video, even though it's focused on the legal stuff,
Right.
it does kind of highlight those human stories.
It does.
Like you think about that hardship criteria for cancellation of removal.
Right.
You have to prove that deportation would devastate your family.
Yeah, especially U.S. citizen or green card holder family members.
So you're talking about families being torn apart.
It's a very real possibility.
It's not just some abstract legal thing.
Oh, it's people's lives.
Yeah, their hopes, their dreams.
And
And it makes you think, like, what do we actually value?
Right. What are our priorities as a society?
Do we care about keeping families together?
Do we value the contributions that immigrants make?
These are tough questions.
They are. There's no easy answers.
It feels like there's often this huge disconnect
Totally.
between the political debates
Yeah.
and what immigrants are actually going through.
100%. We can't lose sight of the human faces
Mm-hmm.
behind all these policies.
It's so easy to get lost in the legal jargon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's
Well,
about people.
It's about people's lives.
Yeah, and those lives are affected.
By the choices we make as a society.
by the systems we create. Exactly.
That brings up, I think, a really important question.
Okay.
How do we balance, the need for border security with, compassion and fairness?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
How do we have an immigration system?
Right.
That makes sense. That's humane.
That upholds the law,
Right.
but also respects people's dignity.
These are huge questions.
Huge. And they're not just for lawmakers.
Right. This is on all of us. We all have a role to play in figuring this out.
It's about having these conversations.
In our communities, with our families, with ourselves even.
Because those conversations are going to shape the kind of society we live in.
They will, for sure.
Well, I think this deep dive has done what it's supposed to do.
Good.
Given us a lot to think about.
That's the goal.
And hopefully empowered people with some knowledge.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly. And, knowing your rights.
Yeah.
That's the first step to protecting yourself, your loved ones.
Absolutely. And if you're facing these issues, don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Yeah, there are resources out there, organizations that can help you navigate this stuff.
Don't go it alone. That's the key takeaway.
I want to thank you again for coming on the show, for sharing all this.
My pleasure. Anytime.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. And, if you liked what you heard, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with more soon. Until then, stay curious and keep learning.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel US Immigration News. We hope you are doing great. Well, in today's video, we will be talking about how to avoid deportation. Insight from a New York top deportation. Donald Trump's promise of mass deportations, if reflected, has a very significant concern among immigrants, including those with a legal status. While undocumented individuals face immediate risk, even a green card holders and naturalized citizens could find themselves under scrutiny. However, immigrants have rights even when placed in a deportation proceedings, and understanding these rights is essential for an effective defense. Deportation proceedings typically begin with the issuance of a notice to appear, a document outlining the charges against the individual's legal challenges have highlighted procedural issues with NTAs such as incomplete or improperly served notice. These flaws can sometimes lead to the dismissal of the case. A skill will examine the NTA closely, seeking any grounds of dismissal or procedural defenses. If a dismissal is not possible or desirable, various relief options may be available. Adjustment of status allows eligible individuals to apply for a green card if they have an approved immigrant petition. In some cases, individuals can pursue readjustment of status to correct prior errors or address minor criminal issues. For those fearing persecutions in their home countries, asylum may be an option provided they apply within 1 year of arrival. Expectation to this deadline exists, and applicants who miss it may still seek withholding of removal or a protection under the Convention Against Torture. Cancellation of removal is another form of relief available to certain individuals who meet specific criteria, such as having lived in the US for at least 10 years and demonstrative that their removal would cause exponential hardship to qualifying relative victims of domestic violence may qualify for a variation of this relief under the Violence Against Women Act. Temporary protected status offers protection from deportation for nationals of designated countries. Similarly, special immigrants. Juvenile status provides a pathway to legal residency for children under 21 who have been abducted, abused, or neglected. Other forms of relief include procedural discretion, which allows immigration officials to pause or terminate proceedings in certain cases, and humanitarian visas such as the U visa and T visa for victims of crime or human trafficking. This application can take years to process, but one finds that may provide temporary protection during a deportation proceedings. Given the uncertainty surrounding future policies, it is crucial to act proactively. Immigrants who believe they will qualify for any form of relief should begin preparing their cases immediately by gathering evidence, filing necessary application, and consulting with the legal professionals. Early action can significantly enhance the chances of a favorable outcome, providing much needed security in an unpredictable legal landscape.